Hello! I forgot to unmute myself. Hello, everybody. Welcome to tonight's episode of DnDTime Worlds. I'm just adjusting a few things here on the stream. Everything is sloppy. Alright, here we go. Hi, everybody. I'm very excited to go into what is now episode 4 of DnDTime Worlds. Which, for any of you unfamiliar, it is a show where we, as a group, will continue to work on, I say worlds, but right now it is DnDTime World, as we've been continuing to work on the one world that we've been doing thus far. I am very excited to get back into it as well, Luminary, and also I see Adrian P. with the kapow! I agree, kapow. So, before we get into it, I want to talk a little bit about, I've been thinking a lot about worlds over the last 2-week gap, and sort of, oh, hello Shiba, I know that you're always also here. I've been thinking a lot about kind of what direction I want to take worlds in the future, what kind of, things that we've been doing, and how I want to change the show, and what new stuff for it. So, let me tell you a little bit about what I'm kind of thinking, and I can kind of bounce it off you and let you guys can tell me what you think of the direction I kind of want to take worlds in. I don't really want to change too much. For one thing, I intend to add a lot more sort of segments to the show, so that it's a little bit more kind of well defined and more clearly broken up. Hello Farfel, and hello VBunny23. Welcome tonight. Good to see both of you. So I want to do some more segments of the show, the first of which is going to be every night, and it's probably going to be a relatively short segment, maybe like 10 minutes, but I want to take about 10 minutes and talk about one particular aspect of world building and do almost sort of like a mini talks, and then have that be sort of the focus of the overall kind of world building that we're going to do for that particular day. Which today I am not going to do. I'm going to replace that with this discussion about kind of what some of my plans for worlds are, but in the future that's a thing that I want to start doing, is I'm going to begin each worlds by talking about one particular aspect of world building and really kind of getting into it. The kind of next thing I've been doing is I've put together a rough schedule for our world. I've been looking over what we have, and I think we're starting to get the world that we've been building for a while now into a pretty cool place. And I really like the direction it's been heading, but I also don't think we want to spend, forever building out, because I think with world building, one can go into essentially an infinite amount of detail, getting down to the very granular, fleshing out each individual in each town, having histories and pasts for all of those people, and, the deeper we want to go, the less time we have to kind of explore other options and build other places. And at some point, I would like to kind of move on and, start a new world with all of y'all, because I think that's the point, is getting to lots of different places. So this is a kind of a rough schedule I had in mind for future episodes of Worlds when they're going to air, and what we would do on them to kind of finish up. So I think that this world, I think that this world, I want to finish within 10 episodes total. So today, and then the next kind of 7 or 6 episodes after that. So today we're going to be finishing up the Pantheon. I really want to finalize and lock down our gods, because I mean that's for anyone who hasn't already seen Worlds and hasn't been following along every week. We'll talk a little bit. I'll just kind of do a quick refresher on what we have so far when we get to that point. But I really want to finish up the Pantheon today, and we'll lock down all this, like, kind of, because there's a lot of stuff we've kind of discussed offhandedly, and we have information all over the place. We're going to kind of sort some of that out. The week after that, I want to do races and classes. I want to decide what player races, if all of them are available, then that's fine. If we end up deciding that, I want to decide what races you can play as a player and feel kind of attached to this world, and what makes those particular races unique, and what kind of factions they belong to, things along those lines. Also, I want to talk about what impact playing certain classes might be. I have normally, it's not Brews Night. Normally I wouldn't drink on Worlds Night, but I got this glass that says Oktoberfest, and I had Oktoberfest, so it was kind of like, I kind of have to, So I want to do that. I want to talk about races and classes. And when I say classes, like, for example, what the implications of playing a cleric would be in this extremely religion and god-heavy world. Farfel, is reincarnation a thing in this world? I feel like it could fit well with the board game theme, i.e. I ran out of pieces, time to start reusing some that have been removed from the board. That actually brings us, that actually is going to bring us to a thing that I want to talk about. Well, I'll come back to that idea in a minute, Farfel, but that is a thing I was just thinking about a little while ago, so I think we're on the same page. So yes, after that, I want to talk about the rebellion. That was one of the big things when we started this world on day one that people were talking about and really wanted to get into, but we haven't touched at all since then, which was this idea of rebellion, because this world is, built on this war amongst gods, and the sort of rebellion was one of like the key things that y'all wanted to include in the world, and I think that we want to do that in a couple weeks from now. Then I want to kind of shore up our timeline. I want to, after that, just take a week to fill up any kind of gaps or loose ends that we think we've left in the world from there. Then the week after that, I want to talk about how one would kind of build a campaign and just like structure a rough story arc that one would expect to play in this world. And then the last week, which is going to be bringing us all the way into Christmas, or not quite Christmas, but close before then. So that'll probably be the last worlds of the year, and then we'll pick up with a brand new world the next year, is my hope. We will, wrap up. I want to take just kind of one episode to do reflection on what we've made, what we learned, what we created, and then we're going to do some kind of, I promised you guys a long time ago that we'd play something in the world that we built, so I don't know what that's going to be. This is a weird world, I think, to play anything other than a full-term campaign in, so I don't know if it's not super one-shot friendly, but I'm going to think a lot about it and come up with something cool that we can do within this world. So that's most of what I wanted to talk about today for new stuff. Oh, so other new stuff. There's two more things I want to talk about. I want to, at the beginning of each week, I want to kind of go through and talk about what changes have happened over the week. So as some of you have been doing and are already aware, when Worlds is not going on, I leave the document up for people to edit it and make changes and add some new stuff. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the stuff that came up over the week. One of those was how the world fits into the planar system, which is something that I added, which is that we talked about this on the first day, and we kind of decided that our world would not fit into the planar system. But I kind of fleshed that out and made it a little bit more concrete, where I have a little statement here about how our world is sort of this demi-plane that these 9 gods have created in order to have the sort of perfect board on which to play their cosmic game of Risk. And another place that we've talked about a lot would be the Evervale. And I have kind of now established the lore of the Evervale as being just sort of an endless plane of swirling mists and lost souls. So I think this is actually what you were talking about before, Farfel, with reincarnation. This is when people die, they end up in the Evervale, which is sort of a firewall between this kind of insulated world and the rest of the planar system. So anyone that tries to planar travel anywhere ends up in the Evervale. Anyone that dies and would move on to some other afterlife instead gets lost in the Evervale. And the gods that control this plane can just kind of pluck souls out of it and reuse them and throw them back into bodies via reincarnation. So I was thinking that exact thing, is that this would be kind of reincarnation, or, when enough kind of individuals pass on and it's time to start a new game, all of the souls in the Evervale end up getting kind of removed out and put back into the world. So that was a thing that I wanted to add to the world, and I think we've been talking about the Evervale a lot, so I wanted to really kind of shore up what that was and what it meant in the context of our world. But also, I'm not the only one. It's great minds, Farfel, great minds, or okay minds. And I'm not the only one that's added kind of cool stuff to the world over kind of the off days. A lot of people have made like tons of little edits. They've corrected, you guys have been very nice about correcting my spelling, and never with any comments. Like, I'm waiting for the one time someone fixes my grammar mistakes for the 100th time, and there's some kind of comment about my bad grammar, but you've all been very nice about it, and I really appreciate it. Also, hello, we got 2 new people. We got Max Meister, and we got Trust a Flump, our very own Jeremy, a DnDTime celebrity, if you will, and apparently who feels like a corpse. I'm sorry. Yeah, thank you, Sheba. I just needed that sort of divine judgment. I needed to be reprimanded for how bad my spelling sucks. SUX is. That's one other thing, and so like I said, I'm not the only one that's added some cool stuff. I don't know who it was. Like, it's semi-anonymous. It does not tell me your Twitch name. It tells me your Google name when you make these edits, but I don't know who any of you are on Google. So if you want to take credit for this, whoever you are, who made the town of Blackdale, please speak up and say, hey, I made Blackdale. Or if you don't want to speak up, don't do that. It is up to you. But this was just a cool place that somebody made over the course of the last couple weeks and added to the document that I thought was good. And I want to start highlighting the stuff that you guys make on the off weeks, because there's been a lot of other, and I'm going to forget about all that stuff in the past. But just because, like, I can't remember every edit because there's so many of them that you guys do. But this is one that was pretty elaborate that I wanted to highlight, where someone added this cool town called the Blackdale. It lies on a strategic point where two rivers meet, and it's hotly contested by a couple of factions. And basically the idea is that the citizens of this town no longer live in it because it's been so much in conflict. And instead, like, while the wars are kind of happening in this town, all of the actual people, the kind of regular citizens, just are sort of draft dodging and living in Mordenkainen's magnificent mansions, like in just kind of small sections within like the ruins of this burnt out town. I thought it was a really cool little idea. And if you guys have other stuff like this that you want to add, it is all of our worlds. So if you have cool ideas like this, please throw them in the doc on the off weeks. But I just wanted to highlight this one because I thought it was pretty rad. And I see Sheba saying that Blackdale was Sheba's idea. Something you made but never got to play. Yeah, and that's awesome. So please everyone, if you have cool ideas like that, throw them in, and thank you to everyone who already has done that. Yes, well, the thing is, Max, is during the stream, and also for everyone, I will get you the link right now. For anyone who wants to view the document live while we're doing this and look over it, I'm going to post that in chat here. And I'm also just going to post it in the Hangout on Discord, because I know sometimes links get deleted for people. So if you want to take a look at it, you can just hop in and view it while we're going through. But during the stream, I turn it off so people can't edit it, so that way I get stuff kind of messed up. And during the week, Max, it's set up so that you can't actually edit it directly, you can only comment, so I have to approve the stuff, but you can still basically you can just edit it. So that is the next thing I wanted to do. So I'm gonna start doing that every week, is talking about some of the stuff that's happened on the off times to keep everyone up to speed. Another thing, what else? Okay, yeah, so another cool thing that I wanted to start doing was at the end of every world session, and again, we're not going to do it today because we don't have anything already prepared for it, but I wanted to do a segment of worlds called In Your Neck of the Worlds, where anyone who wants to kind of throw their own world at the mercy of Twitch chat can request ideas and just kind of source the creativity from Twitch chat that you guys always generate to help come up with ideas for their own worlds. So if there's something specific that you need, you can, I'm going to have people kind of submit over the course of the couple of weeks, like, hey, I want this for my world, and then I'll pick a few of those, and we can also build ideas for other people's worlds as well, just as kind of like a way to close out the show. And again, we're not going to do that specifically today because we don't have anything prepared. And the way that I'm going to do that, as well as for anyone who also watches DnDTime Talks on Wednesdays, we're going to be doing those submissions via Twitter nowadays. So we talked about this on DnDTime Talks, that we were going to add the segment for people to submit questions that they want us to answer at the end of the show. And the way we decided to do that is, if you have a question for us, you can add us on Twitter with just the hashtag DnDTime and your question. And I will just going to say that again at the end of the show as a reminder, but keep in mind now that that is how we're going to do the question submissions, both for that, and if you have something that you want to talk about on Worlds, we're also going to do that via Twitter. Oh, Shiva, rip no Twitter. See, we have to start using Twitter at some point, because right now, me and Jeremy's, and Jeremy's obviously far better than even I am, but me and Jeremy's Twitter game is off point. So if you guys want to start doing Twitter, then I'm basically also going to be learning Twitter. So it's gonna be a new experience. I would get in on it if I were you. So that's how I think we're gonna stick to that for a little while. If it ends up. Yeah, exactly, Jeremy. You aren't Twitter even a little. That is absolutely true, and I'm gonna have to learn how to do it. But I'm very excited to do that, and I think this is gonna give me, a good excuse in which to do that. So, for now, even though y'all may not be necessarily the biggest fans of Twitter, that is how we are gonna do it, and we'll see how it goes. And if it ends up nobody uses it, we'll come up with another way. But, all right, so. I think that's enough about me just talking about maintenance and stuff like that. Want to get into the actual juice. Start building some worlds, y'all. So just as a quick recap of what we've been doing, for anyone not familiar with the world who's just joining us today, the world that we've built is one, and there's a little bit of a brief description up above and to the right of me. But basically, the world that we've built is one kind of predicated on this big. Interwoven conflict among religious factions, where each kind of group is trying to take control, essentially, over the world in this sort of never-ending war to kind of prove their own god's might or spread their own god's ideals in some form or another. And that's kind of the surface level, and that is what the people of the world believe. But the gods themselves, which are sort of the main NPCs of this world, is they're kind of where we kind of decided they have a lot of personality. They play the world like it's a big kind of cosmic game of Risk, and they all have different goals, and they all have different sort of ways in which they wish to win. However, at the end of the day, they all kind of get along and are just forcing the people of this world to battle for their amusement. And that is sort of the place that the world is at, is coming towards the end of this sort of game. Is where we're going to begin our story. A thing that we've been doing is every week we kind of choose names for our world, and we've been kind of slowly working through and in the process of picking a name. We've had the winners that we've had thus far are Osirum and Dios are going to be two of the potential names, but this week again, and I see Luminarian is already ahead of us. Every week we try to come up with a new name for our world, and people submit them, and then we vote on last week's names. And we already have a new one today. We have Ghoul, and we have last week's names we are going to vote on now. So, please, I'm going to link you the straw poll, and again, we're going to do it in Twitch chat. And we're going to do it in the Discord hangout in case people don't have it. Check out... wrong thing. Check out the straw poll and vote, and let us know what name that you think would be best for our world. We will also do the drawing at the end, or not the drawing, I guess. We'll count the tallies at the end. And as people come up with ideas for names for the world, let me know, and we'll put it on. And then next week it will be in the running to be voted upon. Without further ado, let's get into sort of the big thing that we're going to do today, which is really flesh out some of these gods' personalities. What I want to do is, one of the things we decided on was making the gods feel really sort of human. And I want to kind of double down on that and talk about things like which gods are friends and which ones kind of get along and which ones are a little bit sort of, which ones are enemies. So we're going to start that. Max Mugster, what if we put the names from each week together and make a garbled up name? I mean, that's not a bad idea, and what I would suggest is that you take the names from each week and then submit that garbled up name next week, as this week actually is going to be the last week in which we take new names. I think I wanted to get 4 options from 4 different weeks, so next week we will draw the winner we will draw the winner, and then we will have like a final showdown vote for all of the winners and see what the final name of our world is. And that way we can stop calling it our world and start calling it, like, Serum, or whatever it is that we kind of got. So, alright, I'll throw on the name for today, Max. The Ozrim Diosgul. That's a bit of a mouthful, but we will see. I like it. And Max Meister also has an idea. What if there's a section of the world where the gods forbid war, like their sandbox area? What if we put the names from each... and then a sandbox area would be more of a place that prevents death altogether, tests units by making them fight until the... not death. I like that a lot. Hold on a second. I'm going to go through that in our places, and we're just going to add a new row, and we're going to call it just the sandbox until we have more of a title. We're going to call it multi-dimensional, and maybe this is another third plane, because right now we basically have two planes. We have the prime plane, and then the Evervale, and then, you know, the gods exist outside of the world itself. Maybe this is just another even smaller plane that they just have made as like a pocket dimension to test stuff out. And used to test units for the war. Alright, cool. So, we're going to go through and start working on our gods. So, this was a god that was... all of our gods we've kind of established, and actually let's look at them very quickly and just talk about them a little bit. We have a god for each of the 9 alignments. That is one of the kind of core tenets of the world. And these are the ones that we came up with. A lot of these came out during the first week, and people have kind of done a good job over, you know, the interim weeks of fleshing some of those out and really coming up with the specifics of how they, you know, function and what they do. And we're going to go through and really just kind of figure out everything. So right now, one of the gods that we've had is our true neutral god, and this is Cherish. We know that Cherish is essentially a god of lust, a god of love and of lust, and that Cherish is also very greedy. And one of the things that we've decided about Cherish is that Cherish is going for a culture victory. Cherish is just kind of basically the equivalent of a combo player in Magic, and that she is, you know, slowly just gathering resources and building kind of, you know, an empire, and then hopes to win in one big sort of Exodia-like flourish at the end of the game. So that is what we know about Cherish, but I want to really start fleshing out what Cherish is like, because I think that is going to sort of play into what, you know, her faction is like, and what the people that, when this is eventually used as a resource, if people want to play in this world, they can look at Cherish and really build out some of the important locations, because I imagine not everything will be done for them by looking at kind of who Cherish is. Let's talk a little bit about, since we're kind of going with these gods, let's talk a little bit about who Cherish is. So we know that she is a god of, she is a goddess of love, but what is she like? What do you guys think that Cherish is actually like? We also know that she has this kind of secondary flaw of greed. How do you think that plays out? And think of her not as a god, but as a human interacting at a table around other people. And also, the other things I want to talk about is appearance and sort of the strategy. And this is a thing I want to do for every god, I want to talk about 3 relationships that she might have with other gods. So how she, you know, 3 people that are either her friends or her enemies, or that she just has some kind of past with in one form or another. And then we'll also add that to the other gods. Okay, so one of the things that we absolutely know for sure is strategy. We know that that she's attempting to win in a huge flourish at the end of the game using unexpected pieces. I'm going to call them pieces to pull off an elaborate combo. I'm also going to put combo in quotes here. because I'm sure it's more specific, and maybe what that is doesn't even need to be fleshed out. I see a couple people. Skimpy Cole's beautiful woman, Aphrodite. Little Nothing, or Cher's probably naked most of the time. We have a Lust from Full Metal Alchemist. You see, I feel like that's a little bit rote for the love god. I feel like whenever I see a goddess of love, it's always the kind of like sexy female, the sexy female femme fatale character. I would be kind of interested if it. I guess it is a goddess of lust. I feel like, for one thing, probably, I feel like the appearance is probably a little bit mercurial. I imagine that Cherish sort of. I imagine that Cherish is definitely, beautiful. That's certain, I think. Appearance probably shifts. I feel like her appearance probably shifts with her whims. Sexy male, then switch it up a bit. See, I was thinking even more just like, I feel like Cherish is probably, without gender, is whatever they kind of want to be in any given moment. Is she military-minded at all? Well, we have a military-minded god, which is Tizel, our goddess of war, who is sort of a drow war goddess. So I think we'll come back to Tizel. Cruel and vicious, says Trustaflump. Cruel, vicious, and calculating. Behind her beautiful facade. BEA, beautiful facade. And these probably don't need caps, but we can change that later. Yeah, I like that. And also, rather isolated and secretive. I think that those two things can actually, I think isolated and secretive. I don't think those two things necessarily conflict with each other. I think both of those can absolutely be true. Man, I'm struggling with some of my text in here. So, cruel, vicious, and calculating behind her beautiful facade, isolated and secretive. Tries not to show her hand until the last moment. And I think with that kind of idea of the beautiful facade, I think that implies that on the surface that I think that on the surface that means that they are sort of very forward. They're a very kind of outgoing, very charismatic, and friendly on the surface. I think this is the person that no one expects to have any shot at winning the game. They've been playing just sort of for their own little mini game of farming up resources and sort of making friends and taking. I remember one of the oracles that we had chosen was peasant number 3, and she's doing her best to kind of just look like this bubbly fool while she's one that really has a big shot at winning in the end. So we have a bunch of stuff happening in chat that I have missed. And also Tats and Gats said, "Love the bow tie, Pete." Oh, thank you very much, Tats and Gats. Much appreciated. Luminary and arrogant and loves to humiliate those around her, spreads rumors. I like that a lot. Spreads false rumors about her plans. Keeps flamboyant figures around her key pieces. to distract from her real strategies. I think that I think that this is cool. So she has this kind of big plan to win in this sudden combo, and the way that they kind of do that is by choosing oracles that are not necessarily powerful but are unique. They hold maybe important positions that they think will be useful for them in the long run, and also has a lot of just really ostentatious sort of things. Probably has like a big dragon that's not doing anything but is just sort of like sitting there looking and posing. So it's like, well, yeah, I mean, they're doing stuff. They got a dragon, you know? Yeah, working on building a Tarrasque in an underground lair somewhere. Yeah, that's exactly the kind of thing. Although I feel like if we're going to give someone a Tarrasque, I feel like it should be the nature. I feel like it should be the nature deity. So I like this. I think this is a pretty good kind of foundation, and I don't... Since we only have... I want to get through all of the gods today, so I want to go too crazy on any one of them, and I think over the course of the next 2 weeks in between the shows, either I, and hopefully with the help of some of you guys, really want to, like, finish up and get all of these kind of god pages. I want to have, like, a full page like this done for all of the 9 gods. And... Alright, working on... Alright, cool, so that's what we got. Next, who do you think that Cherish kind of has a interpersonal relationship with? I mean, the god of love probably has at least one ex at the table. Who do you think, and outside of that, who do you think that this god gets along well with? Personally, I think that one of them would probably be Vosto. They have the kind of neutral alignment in common. Vosto's a little bit more chaotic, but I picture the kid. Oh, do you think... I like the nature god is the... I like the nature god as being the ex-husband. That feels right to me for some reason. Oh, wait, what'd you do to me? Alright, that'll work. But I want you to be bold. Alright, great. So one of them, let's go with Vosto. Let's go with Oniaras. And then one more. So I like this one. Vosto is kind of neutral, and you're saying... Vosto is childish. And so one was saying that Vosto is being the troublemaker, so that Cherish would be really trying hard to manipulate Vosto. Sees Cherish as a friend and parental figure, maybe, at the table. Takes advice, because they're both neutral, and Cherish is just kind of doing their own thing. So I feel like Vosto, this little kid, sees someone, and Vosto's whole thing was that Vosto doesn't even care about winning the game. Vosto's just playing to have fun, and to do cool stuff, and probably sees someone who's also playing the game the same way he is in Cherish, where Cherish is kind of playing on this deeper level. Yeah, trying to impress Cherish for sure. Maybe Vosto is actually her child. Yeah, I actually really like that. Then we're getting into that kind of cool sort of Greek pantheon thing, and I think our gods are very much like Greek gods in the way that they interact with each other. I think that works really well. And I think that trying to impress Cherish still works, just for a different reason. And Tizel. So we have Luminarian throwing in Tizel as another one. So you're saying that worried that Tizel is going to win before the plan can kind of go off. sees Tzel as her primary enemy. And more than just, like, from a strategic standpoint, what is it that Cherish would dislike about Tzel? Because Tzel is, and I want to look it up just to make sure, but Tzel, yeah, okay, so Tzel is our lawful evil kind of god of conquest. What is it about Cherish that they just don't like who Tzel is? Like, aside from, like, does that just a strategy that doesn't appeal? Maybe it's the straightforward... maybe it's the straightforward strategy that Tzel, you know, kind of employs is really boring. Is really boring to Cherish. So, you know, Cherish kind of sees in Tzel just this, like, really kind of plain, like, yeah, you know, anyone can do that. Anyone can amass a bunch of big armies and run them over the map and win like that. That's super boring. I don't like you. I don't like just the way that you think. And also, probably Tzel is, as Luminarian was saying, is also the biggest threat to win before her big combo goes off. And then Oniaras, we've established as Cherish's ex-husband. I feel like the relationship, what I picture for Oniaras as the sort of nature, the nature person, is we haven't talked about their personality, but I imagine Oniaras is just kind of like, just kind of goofy and nice, and Cherish, you know, was into that for a time, but you can't hold Cherish down for too long. So I imagine there's a lot of things, as, I guess Cherish, maybe Cherish isn't quite as, because I think we're making her a little bit more chaotic, but yeah, I think her just getting bored of Oniaras, makes sense. Hello to Matty Morgs, and also hello to Freaky Jimmy123, who I missed before. I saw that you hit us with the exclamation point bonanza, but unfortunately, the spectator bot is not available during Worlds, only during talks and brews and delves and Pete and Jeremy's D&D time. We only do the bonanza on the specifically Pete and Jeremy's D&D time day. All right, so we're looking pretty good, and we're gonna have a few oracles. Okay, so what is Cherish's faction like? One of the things that we said a long time ago was that Cherish controlled the dwarves, which I thought was an interesting pick, because I don't see why she would, but I still like it. But what is kind of Cherish's, you know, units? Well, what pieces does she have on the board? And there's something very neutral about the dwarves and their playstyle. Yeah, so... oh, hello, Opal Dragon. Yeah, and that's one of the thing. So the dwarves have all of their stuff kind of deep underground in these sort of... in these sort of ancient cities. So it's very... You know, it's very easy to hide things with the dwarves. And what is the dwarves' place in all this? I think from the dwarves' perspective, as they probably don't even directly worship Cherish, I imagine Cherish has some sort of other name that they've given themselves to sort of communicate with the dwarves through, and that the dwarves just worship like the dwarves just sort of worship Moradin. Patchwork 98. This true neutral god seems somewhat neutral evil. You see, I get what you're saying, and I was getting that vibe a little bit too. Very the sort of calculating nature, but I don't think we've stepped into that territory, because I don't think that they are. I don't think that they are actively doing evil. I think that they're just kind of playing their own game. And I guess that comes down to a question of philosophy, whether if someone's intents are... if someone's sort of intents are poor, does that make them evil versus what their actual actions are? Which is, that's an interesting question. But for the most part, in terms of like the way that they function, and I guess all of the gods in this world are decidedly evil, as they just kind of force people to fight for their whims. So in that regard, all of these gods, even the good ones, are evil. But I think neutral. So I think the kind of true neutral vibe fits at least in the play style, if not necessarily perfect in the personality. Farku, how can I make you a god when you already are a god? Also, hello to Diadems. And I don't think I said hi to you, Patchwork, but hello to you as well. Hashtag God Farku. Tweet it, everybody. So, she's got dwarves, and that makes sense because, deep underground, they're able to hide all of the things that they sort of do down there. What else would be in their domain? Probably, I'm sure there's a few miscellaneous kind of surrounding cities, but as a god of love, who would that apply to? I'm trying to think myself. I feel like what kind of people would worship a god of love? Bunnykin. You want to fit the Bunnykin into this one, Shiva? That's funny. I'll put it on as a possibility. Bunnykin, maybe. Although we'll have to wait and see if we end up doing. See, I like that bards. Patron goddess of bards and musicians. That makes a lot of sense. Forge clerics, because and I imagine so it seems like it's people who respect and patronize the arts. Well, I agree with you, Max, but it's just we've already kind of really heavily decided on the gods that we have. So I'm reticent to just add in a whole nother god once we've already kind of got this elaborate sort of 9-god system set up. But yes, so I think that makes a lot of sense what you're saying, V-Bunny, with the idea that those individuals that respect craftsmanship and that really sort of admire their craft, there's a love of that. People that love and have sort of a passion for life would worship Cherish, and that makes a lot of sense to me. And we can flesh out the faction a little bit more. And I think in terms of the oracles, for anyone who doesn't know what the oracles are, these are basically every god gets 3 pieces on the board that they can control directly. And these are, these are individuals that the gods kind of see the world through, that they give their commands to their world through, and how they kind of directly interact with the game. So I believe we already actually made one of Cherish's oracles a long time ago. And that was Jerome Masterson. I think that was one of the first things we made, and I love y'all for it. And that was Jerome Masterson, which no doubt was named for Jeremy. And so we already have one, but we need a couple more oracles. What kind of creatures? So probably the king of the dwarven kingdom. So I'm going to put a dwarf, just a random dwarf here, and then we already have bards, so one in particular bard. And we'll get copy and paste this and put it here because we already have one. And who this individual was was someone that we kind of decided that this was someone that with her kind of vision of the board that Cherish has seen value in that other people have not. And the idea was that, like, other gods kind of joke about this useless sort of oracle that she's taken and invested so much in, but at some point he's going to come in and, be very significant at a critical moment. So we don't need... and one of the things we knew about him was that he was just a gatekeeper in one of the outside town. The bard that travels around singing the praises. Yeah. Kobold bard. I love it. What do we want to name? So we need to name our dwarf king and our kobold board, so our dwarven master artisan, says Max, and I really like that a lot. So master artisan, a skilled dwarf that Cherish plans to use to build whatever it is that she plans to win with. So this is the person, like, that is kind of like directly executing her grand design and vision that she's like slowly building with underneath the ground. And our bard is going to be the cool name here. We have Emily Stormwater. I like it. Emily Stormwater. And I also like that this individual is a kobold. And we'll put kobold on that. Because that's just fun. That's just fun. I want to meet that NPC. The kobold bard that sings about love as they walk around the world. Cretan. Or Cretan. That sounds a bit like Cretan. Or actually, I also like Carlsbad, Voice of the Caverns. That's a sick name. I'm going with Carlsbad, Voice of the Caverns with title. Carlsbad, Voice of the Caverns. So maybe can best... so if the Voice of the Caverns, the person I'm picturing there, is not necessarily like, maybe not like a forge kind of type, but maybe more of the, maybe more of a mason, and can almost like, maybe like a high-level druid that can just kind of like paint the walls smooth and is like building this deep and ever kind of underground place that Cherish has been kind of trying to reach. So we're going to say mason carves out indeed, Matty Morgs. And one could say that he was free as well. Illuminati confirmed. And the Kobold Bard sings the praises of Cherish throughout the land through songs of love and joy. And I feel like I like the sort of I think each one of these embodies one of the things that we've really kind of pegged in for Cherish, which is, I feel like Emily Stormwater is Cherish's face. And this is the person that just speaks about love and is passionate and walks around the world just singing and kind of telling the story of this individual. And then we got Carlsbad, which is sort of the just true neutral, yes, someday I will win, that's slowly kind of tearing away at the walls. And then Jerome is really just sort of like the the fluff, the what are you doing, Cherish? There's no way that you're ever going to reach the end like this. And I think that we now have a really well fleshed out character, and I think that Cherish is now I think this is now a god, and also I think I think we can move on next to the next god. And I am going to actually take right now, we're just going to grab what is said for Oniares and just toss that right on Oniares, since they have that relationship. So that'll be... Oh wait, Control-Z, paste with formatting. Okay, you're gonna do me like that, huh? You're gonna do me like that, huh? Ex-wife. And I think even though Vosto is Oniares' Vosto is Cherish's child, I don't think that necessarily means that Vosto is also Oniares' child. It's probably a different father. Oniares is ex-wife. Great. So, the next one, I'm just going in alphabetical order here. Let's talk about Corrosia. We're taking a big shift from sort of the... taking a big shift from the true neutral, slow gameplay to chaotic evil. And let's talk, for starters, let's see what we have already established about Corrosia by looking back at our Pantheon. Corrosia. Alright, so Corrosia is actively trying to make the game unfun for people. Yes, I remember this now. So, Corrosia is a god of death. God of death. And basically, I think the idea is that just kind of an asshole. But what do you think? Yeah, Sheba says, that guy. Patrick, fun fact, Joe Pesci is actually the halfling god of crime and passion. That struck me. Skeletal appearance, yeah, I like that. Very bony and skeletal. Sort of a lich type god. Well, I think one of the things is also just to discuss what we already have. We have Avernon the Undying. Was a cool thing that we came up with. I want to say it was... Oh no! Undo! I want to say it was the week before, the brews before, which is going to be our... it's going to be one of our oracles. So we already know one of the oracles that we have, and that is Avernon the Undying, which was a Draco Lich. So we know that at bare minimum, Corrosia kind of commands this very powerful dragon lich. And one of the things about this is we knew that, like, whenever there's a big war, Avernon the Undying kind of flies in vulture-like and just goes through and raises the dead on either side of the battlefield as undead to just add chaos to the battle. And it's just like a terrible, like, tactic to force people to fight their, like, kind of downed friends and family, which was this awful and very brutal thing, which falls very well into the category of being that guy, of forcing all of these people to do that. So that's the kind of thing that we had in mind for Corrosia. But what other stuff? Strategy. Another thing that we talked about is not trying to win. Trying... and I don't think it's actually... I don't think it's about trying to make people have a bad time. I think it's more... has fun. Gets enjoyment from interfering with other people's plans. Personality. And Sheba's saying Corrosia cares very little about life of both enemies and his own people. So part of the strategy, I think, is utilizes lots of sacrificial pawns to be later resurrected as undead. So, you know, Corrosia just kind of throws armies at people, just wanting to, like, take out... Like, maybe they just built a recent statue. And I think this goes into what Patchwork was saying there. Corrosia takes the time to be a jerk, even when it works against his interests, particularly by appearing via Avatar Worshipper to make it clear just how beneath him you are. I imagine Corrosia does things like tosses an army at a city just to take down a statue that they recently erected, like, symbolizing peace within the land, and just does stuff like that just for spite. Bionic Sheba for relationships. Oh, we already got a cool relationship. Palin. Palin. I love this. This is perfect. Corrosia and Palin are constantly at each other's throats, because Palin is trying, and we're just going to copy and paste that straight in. Nicely done. I love it when you guys give me stuff that I don't have to type out, and I can just take it. Corrosia and Palin are constantly at each other's throats, because Palin is trying to keep order within the game, but Corrosia simply doesn't care about following the rules, because they just don't care. One of the things that we had... and we got a bunch of stuff here as well for... we got a bunch of stuff as well here for ideas for the faction. Death Clerics, Anti-Paladins, Necromancers, Undying Warlocks. I imagine Creperum can be the domain, sees undead as perfect beings. I agree. Sounds great. Death Clerics... Oh wait, I drank from a bottle. I didn't drink out of my glass! What am I thinking? Death Clerics, Anti-Paladins, I think also Death Knights kind of falls into the category. Undead Kingdom. Yeah, for sure. For sure, Undead Kingdom. And I imagine that Undead Kingdom Luminarian is part of the strategy, has one heavily defended Undead Kingdom on the board to prevent loss. Alright, cool. I love this. So that's really cool. And I see Treperum was a recommendation for the location from V-Bunny, which I'm very into. And Luminarian saying this undead kingdom, so I think that would fit well as an undead kingdom. And so the way I picture the strategy works for Corrosia is they have put all of their resources into creating this sort of undead kingdom that is just full of monsters. It has so much power in it because they pooled all of their things in this one location to make themselves unbeatable at that spot. That's never going to win them the game, but it prevents them from losing it because they always have at least one territory. And they don't care about winning, so as long as they don't get knocked out of the game, that's fine. I think from a gameplay standpoint also, since presumably players don't know all this little details about the world, instead, there's just this one kingdom, there's just one dark place on the map that you do not want to go, and that is this place called the Creperum. And they see it as just like, oh, you don't go into, like, the Lich's domain. That is the realm of nightmares. You don't approach that place. And that feels, for one thing, very high fantasy, and I think that would feel very natural in a setting like this, and do a good job of kind of being a contrast to a lot of the other kingdom sort of battles, where there's this more kind of... it seems like a place that you would quest after. Like, adventurers would go in to try and slay the Lich Lord, only to be defeated inevitably by the kind of might of the area. I think that's very cool. And I like the relationship that we have now from Palin. We need 2 more oracles and 2 more relationships. And I think just naturally, there's an obvious thing here, which is Corrosia is chaotic evil. I think Lux... the lawful good character, it just makes sense to me that they would be just diametrically opposed to each other. And I think Lux invited Corrosia to play. Because he doesn't have a lot of friends. And Lux didn't quite get it. Like, they didn't quite get why Corrosia didn't have a lot of friends in his lawful good stuff. His lawful good self was like, oh, come join us. Come play this cool game that we came up with. And Corrosia was like, okay. And came in and destroyed everything. And now everyone's like, God damn it, Lux, why'd you invite this guy? And Lux is kind of bearing the heat. And now... Lux has kind of come around, and Lux is definitely not going to invite Corrosia back. And everything about the way Corrosia plays just gets under Lux's skin. Oh, hey, Alex, welcome tonight. Zendaril has joined us. I love it. We got a full oracle here. I like it when you guys, like I said, I like it when you guys give me ones that I can just copy Pastorino. Creature, Necromancer, Asher Pile. Necromancer and cheat by nature. His history as a mortician makes him partial to seeing the dead as nothing more than tools, is content to use his lord's favor to live luxuriously. So he just sort of creates a lot of the undead. He's like the primary person that's raising these undead armies to go out and do whatever dumb shit that he's sending them to do. He doesn't really care that much about the undead. He mostly just has the power. He doesn't necessarily believe in the cause of, like, spreading, death throughout the world, and that death is beautiful and that undeath is this more perfect life. For the most part, it's just sort of like, yeah, if I do this, I'll get paid. I like that. I like that kind of angle. Fits in with the chaotic, I think, as well. I love it. Also, Shiba, I was actually thinking that exact same thing. I think we talked about this a while ago, which is why we're so on the same page. Has one rookie skeleton general. And these are just... And this is, like, on the borderline, I think, of cheating, according to Skeleton. skeleton, and this is on the borderline of cheating, probably, according to Palin, which is why Palin's like, I don't think that's part of the rules, where every day, basically, they just kind of control a new skeleton and are just basically piloting around one skeleton, going around and causing havoc, and then when the skeleton goes down, they just pick a new one. Like it a lot. I don't want it to be a skeleton, though. I would really like it to be a person. We're gonna call him Pawn. We're gonna call him Pawn, because I feel like it's more brutal and more chaotic evil. I will keep your number, 4562. If they're just a regular person that's forced to do this. Like, they just draft someone from someone else's, like, kingdom or territory, and do that. We have one more relationship. I'm only thinking of meme oracles, and they're all Magic Tavern references. Well, Farful, you know how I feel about Hello from the Magic Tavern references. Anyone who hasn't listened to Hello from the Magic Tavern, it's a really good podcast. That's it. That's all I got to say about that. It's very good. A lot of the time, I'll make jokes about it, specifically with Farful, because he knows I watched that show, or listened to that show. Fox says hi as well, says Zandaril. Hi, Fox. And V-Bunny says, a relationship with the nature god. A regular person who thinks they're going to be... I love that. I'm going to throw that in. Every new oracle thinks they'll receive eternal life. Oh, it's so sad. Alright, so we got ourselves some oracles. We need one more relationship. There's a recommendation for a relationship with the nature god. I'm trying to think. I mean, Blemish is a pretty good meme. I mean, that's true. Blemish is an excellent character. So, Oniaras. And what is it about... what is it about Oniaras that would kind of... Oh, damn. I also like... I'd also kind of like Pelagios as a... I like that. I like that Pelagios... No, I like that. I want to go with the Pelagios one, because I like that they have at least one ally, one sympathizer at the table, because I feel like everyone at the table hates him, but I like the idea of making sure that we include one person that is their ally. Each one tries to one-up the other's bullshit. And I'm going to change some of this writing. Like, right now I think I have 2 swears in this one. Those are going to get cut out. This is going to be a G-rated world sheet. And Pelagios probably thinks that Corrosia's just sort of doesn't care at all, just throwing themselves and interfering with other people's plans is absolutely hilarious. I know. I said the S-H-I-T word. I hope Jeremy doesn't get mad at me. And good, we got another god. Nicely done, everybody. I really like the way these are coming out. Although I don't think we're going to end up being able to get through all of them before we get to the end tonight. Alright, so, well, this is a god that we might be able to go through pretty quick, because we know a ton about this god already. The answer to your question, Farful, for the pond, does Corrosia make a game out of it for himself to see how far he can push it before the pond dies? The answer to that question is, it is true now. And that's also a great storytelling tool, because I imagine, like, the party that's interacting with Corrosia through these different ponds just sees these things that are just running at them and, like... oh wait, I forgot to finish my sentence. It was supposed to be future corpse. and just sees these things that are like desperately clinging on to life, and with like specifically Corrosion's guidance are probably pretty powerful because they have like that like semi-omnipotence through like being communicated with, sort of like Neo at the Matrix, where like Morpheus is like telling him when to like duck around corners and stuff like that. I like that a lot. Yeah, his poor pawn, Shiba. I do not want to be one of Corrosion's pawns. That is for sure. Alright, so Lux. Let's talk Lux. We know a ton about Lux. We're going to go to the Pantheon and talk about what we know about Lux. Oh wait, I clicked Vosto's stuff. We need Lux's stuff. What am I talking about? Everything's bad. I am good. Okay. So we got his personality here. So we know what he looks like already. We've already established that. So that's great. He looks like a handsome, blonde-haired, blue-eyed man in his 40s. Picturesque dude, it would seem. Values the life of all living buildings and dislikes those who destroy the life he creates. Makes sense that he would hate Corrosion. Winning for the first 2,000 years, but slowly declined. We don't need to include that in here. We know that one of the things that we do know about Lux is that his generosity and kind of desire to help people has landed him in last place. Lux is the real dad. And who do you think we want to... I feel like Lux and Cherish have kind of sorted their shit out. Whoa, what did I do? But I like the idea that Lux trying to act like a father figure to Vosto, but Vosto just sees him as kind of like the intruding like the kind of like stepdad figure, like doesn't know that Lux is his dad. I like that a lot. So Vosto probably doesn't like Lux, and Lux is just doing his best to try and be a good dad. His faction, all celestial. Well, we actually know the name of his kingdom already, because we have spent a good amount of time. Because Barton, our lovely town of Barton, for anyone unfamiliar with Barton, just as a change of pace, last week we went through and made a entire town, did it out from the ground up, and we know a lot about Barton. I think picking a NPC in Barton to be an oracle would probably be a lot of fun. But yeah, I mean, life clerics, humans. I think it's just a lot of humans. The kingdom of Vasanya. You know, noble knights, that sort of thing. It's like the very traditional kind of high fantasy tropes of the good, the kingdom of good, the beacon of light, the knights, the chivalry. I think that is very... Can the oracle be Stump? His barking is just trying to warn everyone. I mean, as much as I love that bit, I feel like if we make the oracle Stump the dog, that just doesn't seem like something Lux would do. Like, that seems like something Vosto would do, is have his oracle be a dog and be shitty at communicating with people, but it's just kind of funny. Like... I missed before, it uses a random number generator at the beginning of the game to generate the number of the pawn. Life clerics, humans, the kingdom of Asanya. Strategy. His strategy. What was Lux's strategy? I feel like Lux was just trying to win with optimism, thought by providing So I feel like Lux is kind of like, because Lux is kind of a sad figure. He's kind of like the punching bag of our god's world, which I like that lawful good is the punching bag. That's a lot of fun. And he was kind of trying to create this, his strategy is to help everyone. Yeah, for sure. I feel like Lux is also trying to, like, be very nice at the table. Probably doesn't take a lot of moves that he could. Like, doesn't go in and attack kind of Vosto's, like, really obviously, you know, underprotected area when he can, because he just doesn't want to, I mean, that's his kid. He wants him to be happy. He doesn't want to do anything like that. And I think, likewise... and again, Lux is sounding a little bit more neutral, I think, in the way that we've been kind of building him up. I feel like he's not quite the lawful type, and maybe we can come up with a kind of another thing to really kind of hone in that lawful. And I guess it's the order with which he builds things. He builds everything, plays very by the book. Yep, so we're going to put in, as one of the relationships, absolutely, Philagios. Oh, and I guess that's his relationships. Philagios. Which Lux naturally would resent, and then we also already know that Lux and Karoja have passed as well. Great. We don't have any oracles, and I do want to pick someone in. I do want to pick someone in Barton, because that makes sense, because we've spent so much time on Barton. So we're just going to go down to Barton. Who do we want to go with from Barton? I feel like Jacoby. Jacoby makes a lot of sense. He's sort of this very sort of, yeah, you were on the, we were on the same page there, Sheba. Jacoby makes a lot of sense, and he's the kind of thing I think that Lux would pick. This sort of old soldier type character feels like it meshes very well with Lux's kind of, you know, the ruin that his kingdom is in. He's almost like a representation of Visanya himself. I think that's cool. So, name, Jacoby. Creature, human, description. Did we ever name the tavern? I had an idea for the name of the Windmill Tavern. I don't know if we ended up naming it or not. I cannot remember. I'm going to actually... Owner of the Windmill Tavern. It was called the Old Mill. Never mind. We won't go with my name. We'll go with the Old Mill, because that was a good name. And this individual is holding together the dregs of Lux's kingdoms and civilization. Who else would Lux have as an oracle? And we were crushing this one. It was the grain mill. My apology. My apologies, Max. We will call it the grain mill. I knew we had something for it. A life... It's a good name, Max. It's a good name. So we have a life cleric in the capital and last main city trying to instill some form of hope in the falling. Okay, yeah, I like it. Cleric. Chief of Lux's religious order. Trying their best to maintain procedure and salvage what they can of the dying empire. instill some form of hope in the falling. Actually, that's way better than what I said. Instill some form of hope. I like that it's more of a symbolic kind of thing, representing the last bit of light. Cool, cool, cool. Raventail. Have a good night, Raventail. And flesh out the ruthless wonder that is Maragnan. You know what? We're gonna throw Maragnan as an oracle under... we'll throw Maragnan as an oracle under Tizel. And Patchwork Reardon, love it. Who is Reardon? What is their... so an old veteran. We know that Reardon is a veteran. So covered in scars and saves refugees. A shelter for those awesome. So yeah, we have now Jacobi, Eterna, and Reardon. I like all of these individuals. They're all very Lux. These characters are a lot more sort of are a lot more traditional in the way that they kind of are. I can picture all of these things in a very regular fantasy setting, which I think fits really well for Lux's overall aesthetic. I like this guy Reardon, just fits perfectly the hopelessly helpful, the reason why he's losing, upstanding example. Domain, and we know that his domain is light in life. It's well established. Very good, very good. Lux is smart enough to pick the oracles that have seen more but are no longer at risk within it. Wowzers, says Farku. Yeah, I agree. I think that works really well. Very good. So, let's now talk Oniares. We're moving through. We're getting through actually a little bit more than I ended up thinking. I think I thought that... more than I think I thought we would. So Oniares. Who do we have? We haven't talked about... what gods have we not talked about at all? Because I want to connect into some of those gods. We've talked about Palin, Tizel a little bit. We have not connected any gods to Zeeth yet. So I think Oniares, just to begin with, let's assume that they have a connection to Zeeth, and just start getting Zeeth tied in. Zeeth. Name. The tree into Oracle. We're going to call that individual. The Forest Father. Oniares looks like a good Oni. I kind of like that. I like that, Max. Looks like an... oh, we can bold this. Large, muscular, kind of teal skin, long silver hair. And I think I like this as well because I can picture Cherith being into like the really big kind of muscly druid kind of character with like the long hair, but Oracle Mothra, the Moth Kaiju. I love it. So yeah, that kind of Oni look, but he's like a nice Oni. Personality. So we don't actually... Oniares is probably one of the gods that we've spent the least amount of time on. Okay, one of the things that we had established about him is that he's a little bit He's a good person, but he has a little bit of an anger in him. I cannot find anything ever. So we know that his domain is nature. His personality loves nature. You can use Zaith's time-bending sort of abilities to speed up time and help nature reclaim what is no longer used. Is high all the time. Usually it's a weed high, but sometimes it's bath salts high. I mean, you know, he fires up he smokes that kind strain. He likes to take marijuana into his lungs. I like it. A little bit high. Nearly all the time. And if he's not actually high, he at least acts it. I imagine Oniara kind of talks like this, man. Kind of that, like, just taking it real slow. What does he look like? Oh, we already established that. Strategy. How is he trying to win? I feel like his strategy is he's just kind of slowly trying to, like, spread forests. And from another gameplay standpoint, I think this also works very well, sort of like where Karoja has this one kind of defensive point. I think the idea of this forest that's always kind of pushing and right on the edge of civilization, that people are always having to, like, beat back, and there's regular, like, raiding parties to, you know, go and just burn down sections of forest because it's encroaching on civilization. I think that's a cool storytelling mechanic that can, you know, there's a lot that you can do with that. He's always working on that Tarrasque as a checkmate somewhere. Yeah. At the heart of his massive forest is the egg of a Tarrasque that is slowly... Actually, I feel like that's more in the faction section. I mean, obviously his faction is going to have tons of, his faction is going to have tons of druids in it. And I'm sorry, I'm getting less talky as I'm speaking more and more. Sorry about that. So he's going to have plants, he's going to have druids, he's going to have, what else? I mean, nature clerics, obviously. And beasts. And he has the most control over the ocean of any in the game. Over the oceans. And... Alright, so we have a lot established for him. Creature. A massive... treant. So I'm thinking for the Forest Farther, this is like a huge treant, and this is like sort of this massive treant that can kind of do a lot of different, it's how he kind of sees the world. Through this particular oracle, he is able to kind of this one tree is connected through roots to every other tree in his domain. So he has the most kind of active control and vision of his domain of any, probably, any of the other kind of players in the game. Irony Golem, welcome, says, I think of my deities as crafters, and human time spent in their honor is what fuels their resources. All about what gets living creatures to value your patronage. A god of locks and secrets, get a lot of juice, since most people oath to him all day long. I agree, absolutely. And I think that's the way, like, a lot of the way the territory in this kind of world is going to work is that just like by having people that worship these gods in different spaces, so the trees, while they don't necessarily directly kind of understand that they're worshipping Oniares, I feel like the trees in the region, just by kind of being part of it, and by kind of, you know, all being interconnected to this one forest father, this oracle, they are all essentially his followers. Like the plants themselves believe in kind of a deep level in Oniares. Elder Trent is the go-to source for tree and wood. They want making bow, arrows, and magic items, so he knows a ton of high-level people who stop by for sticks. Absolutely. I like it. And I imagine that Oniares doesn't have access to a lot of things. So it's probably an important source for trade as well. Like, he probably doesn't have a ton of metals and, you know, more kind of refined resources, not that he necessarily needs them. I like that a lot. Triton is an oracle. I'm into it. The Queen of the Seas. Queen of the Sea. I don't know what the Queen of the Sea is. What do you guys think? Also, I like what Patchwork says. Oniares is patient. The forest takes a while to grow, but the roots can break fortresses into powder. That's just very cool. I want to keep that phrasing, actually, so I can use it when I start cleaning this up a little bit. We're going to throw that into his strategy section. Mother Goose. Oh, man! Okay, never mind. I love it. I feel like we want to name other than Mother Goose, because that's a little bit memey, but I like that a lot. Awesome. Cares for the egg of the Dvořák. You got the trees, the sea, and the earth. How about a sentient iron golem as the third oracle? I like the sentient iron golem idea, Max. I'm going to take it since we just, as you put that, came up with our third oracle. I'm going to take it and throw it in. Was it Palin? Yeah, actually, I'm going to throw it in Palin's thing, because I feel like Palin, the lawful one that's taking a lot of time and doing a lot of magic, I feel like he absolutely is creating golems. 100%. Oh, I also really like Wid the Immortal. I'm gonna put... Oh man, they can only have 3 oracles. That's the rules. We can't break the rules. I just like all these characters. I'm keeping Wid the Immortal in people. And he can be in the thing. He can be in the thing. He just won't be an oracle. But he's just a character that we know about. Because that's such a cool name, too. Control X and Control V. I'm very good at copy pasta. Irony Golem says that we will have the whole launching ceremony with the priest and incense and drinks really mana the sea goddess up, and she intervenes and storms don't stink my ships. We're made for each other. I like it a lot. Skibidi-bee. So Oniares. Who else do we have? So what do we want to name our kind of... what do we want to name our kind of Triton character? What do we want to name our Triton oracle? Beardfish. Of course. Of course you would say Beardfish. And as much as I'm inclined to a degree, inclined to agree. Ooh, I like Amlin. Amlin. And who is Amlin? Why is she in particularly important? And Iron Golem says, Druid Oracle would be have all these skulls deserve from the living hedge of moving vines that wrap in through the skulls. Spirits will answer Oracle stuff through a skull. Once again, we're going to copy and Pastorino, because that's cool as hell. I imagine that's what, like, the kind of massive cage that the Tarask egg is within. It's probably this sort of... this, like, huge and labyrinthine hedge maze, almost. And that sounds like an adventure right there to me, folks. I like that a lot. Controls all matters in the ocean and the Navy. I like it. It's simple. I like it. Cool. Alright, I think we need to forge a couple more relationships. I forgot about that. So we have the kind of interaction with Cherish. We have that they are husband and ex-wife. We have that Zeeth. We don't have anything for Zeeth yet. What do you think Cherish's interaction with this sort of lawful, or Zeeth's thing was chaotic good. This sort of chaotic good goddess of time. How do you think Oniares kind of works in conjunction with this individual? What past do they have? Or I guess it's not even like they're friends necessarily. To speed up time and help reclaim nature what is no longer used. I mean, I like that. I feel like that's something that they would do. But I'm also just curious about, like, why they're friends. Like, why do these two individuals like each other? What is it about them? Maybe it's because they're both are patient for two different reasons. I imagine their turns, like, if there were turns in this kind of cosmic games, both of them have really short turns because, you know, all of their plans are about the long term and for different reasons. And I think, oh, and they're just siblings. Yeah, I like it. Brother and sister. That's so simple, and I don't. That's such a good idea, Opal. They're just siblings. They sit next to each other. They both are really kind of slow in the way that they play. You know, Zeeth, because Zeeth obviously controls time and has a lot of weird things that do involving time, and Oniares because he's just slow and patient and has that very kind of deliberate play style. And they're brother and sister, and they hang out and they're buddies. I like it a lot. It's simple. It's cute. It's very pure. It makes sense. I feel like for the neutral good and the chaotic good characters. And we have one more interaction that we can use. It cannot be Lux, Karoja, or Cherish. So we could maybe do Philagios. We could do Tizel. We could do Palin. We could do Vosto. Well, actually, we can't. Yeah, we could do Vosto. I mean, I guess we could do Vosto. I feel like we don't have a lot with Tizel. Well, let's talk about Tizel. Oh, and maybe, yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me. Tizel. Of War. The Goddess of War, yeah, exactly. I was on the exact same page, Sheba. Tizel is constantly just kind of running over, is just constantly running over the forests. It's really frustrating for Oniaras, because Oniaras feels like this person's just picking on him, constantly just abusing and just tearing down the things that he spends years and years growing, these trees. Alright, cool. And that's another god. Alright, we got 1, 2, 3... Man, we've done 4 today. We're cranking. Let's see if we can get... we probably have time for 1 more. But as much as we have time for Peilin, there's also the question is, do we want to have time for Peilin, or do we want to do something else? And I will give you a couple of moments. And actually, also, a reminder that we have a straw poll for what we want to name our world. And if you have any ideas for the names of the worlds, we actually haven't gotten a lot of world name ideas, and we need some. So tell me what you think this world should be called, please. And also, go to that straw poll and vote on last week's names. We'll do the drawing in a little bit. And not too long, because yeah, we got about 20 minutes left. We usually want to shoot for around 11, at least Eastern time for me. And man, we're getting a lot done today. I think we're doing well. Oh, Candor is a world name. I like it. Candor. We'll put in Godrisk for another round. Godrisk. I like it too because it's kind of like Godrisk. Like I can see like the. I can see sort of the. You could pronounce it in such a way that it wouldn't be obvious that you were just saying Godrisk. And then when the players realized it, they would facepalm, which would be a lot of fun. And is there anything else that you guys just want to do tonight, or like any just cool ideas that you've been sitting on that you want to that haven't been like relevant to today's stuff that you want to get out there? I see Opal Dragon has one, Inspector Muller, for the Iron Golem. I'll throw it down. Probably more efficient not to just scroll all the way down. Inspector Muller. That's fun. Let's build a whole new town. Sheba, I love building towns, and I would build a town if we could, but alright, let's build a town. We can build a fast town. This is going to be a little town. Paste without, oh wait, insert row below. Type town. What do we want our new town to be? We're going to do a town right now. In our last kind of 20 minutes before we come up with... and also, keep throwing those world names out. Our town shall be called... We need something kind of delightful and bubbly. Tizel's encampments. Oh, well, that's way better. So maybe this is the most permanent of them. So this is sort of a military... This isn't a town. This is a military outpost. Belongs to Tizel. The rear established war camp from which most of Tizel's campaign is from which most of we've already switched Max, but we will also include Littletown. Maybe we can do both. Littletown, what a delightful little place. Littletown. I would live in Littletown. Littleton. And I don't need that name because that was a name for a town that I was going to use. Most of it is staged. This is like where kind of the staging grounds for everything. I imagine brutal training regimens for soldiers. Yep, we were on the same page. Have a good night. Have a good night, Tats. I love you too. Thanks for hanging out, man. Kerr, the name of a larger town that was ravaged by a... Oh, damn, that's a new town. That's a discrete place. We'll also include Kerr. And, see, we're going to copy, and we're going to pastorino. Copy and pastorino. That's a song I wrote. I call it Copy Pasta. Yeah, so huge... what's the name we want to call our military outpost? Because I feel like this is the kind of place that, like, the lore of this place is, like, one in 5 soldiers survive training here. But, like, this is the elite. Like, if you were... Opal Dragon, I mean, those are all rad as hell names. But I can't put that many in, because then the thing will be biased. So tell me which of those that you like the most. That's sick. Copy. I don't even know where to include that, but we're going to include that under Tizel's strategy, I think, is what we're going to do. Lux, Oniares, Palin, Philagios, Tizel. Bold. Cool. The Inklands. Okay. Yeah. I like the Inklands a lot. That sounds rad as hell. The Inklands. And at this point, I think it's safe to go ahead and look at our results. And the winner, classic, and the winner by a margin of 1 is Empyrean. Empyrean, congratulations on your victory. It's just that second person. Boop. Empyrean has won. Oh wait, what did I do? Today is not September 4th. Today is... September 18th, 2018. And these are the names that were submitted. And the winner is Empyrean. It's a good name. It's a very split work. Board World. Like Westworld, but a much worse names. I mean, it's on there now. That's for sure. Hilfer for the military camp. Done. We needed a name for that. Nicely done, Opal. Nicely done. Hilfer. I'm going to put 1 L instead of 2 L's. Because Hilfar sounds like it's a faraway hill, which sounds kind of pleasant. But Hilfar, that sounds scary to me. Yeah, well, we already have Hilfar, the military outpost. Oh, the camp. I see what you're saying. So this is the camp. Random name generator. Cool, cool, cool. Alright, and I think that... Okay, cool. I didn't actually... I forgot to read this. I copy and pasted it, and I forgot to read it out loud, which was the idea for Kerr, which was the remains of a larger town that was ravaged by a corrosion warband. And it's more of kind of like a criminal enclave, and they're all sort of desperate and dangerous, and they're very, very used to the undead. It's very scary. I want to be general. Instead of killing 4 of every 5 elites, I move the camp near the enemy. Oh, when I say that, what I mean is not that they have 5 elites and then they just kill a bunch of them. It was more like they have a bunch of weak slaves, and the one that survives ends up being an elite. I agree that killing 4 of every 5 elites is not a sound strategy. Oh, okay. I see what you're saying. I thought you meant that, like, I thought you thought it was like the idea was that they were just killing them off. Yeah, precisely, irony golem. Cool. We got 4 of our 5 gods done this week. I think over the course of the next week, I am just going to go through and hopefully with all of your help, go through and make some of these gods. Well, finish up the ones that we haven't done already, which we got 5 left, which I think that's a very reasonable goal for a couple weeks before the next Worlds. But I guess that's probably going to do it for this week. At which point I will, in that case, say thank you all very much for hanging out and world building with me. It is a blast, as always. Y'all are the best. Such awesome ideas are consistently come out of the collective will of the Twitch chat, which is great. And yeah, I really like what we did today. Next week, or I guess not next week, but the week after next, the next time we do Worlds, let's consult the schedule. We'll be talking about races and classes. We'll be talking about what things that you can play and what the significance of playing them are. Maybe we'll spend not a lot of time on that, because I guess some of the kind of factions and stuff that we've created have already outlined that a little bit, so maybe there's not as much work there, and maybe we can actually do some more of the gods in addition to that, but I don't want to go out on a limb and say that that's definitely the case, because there are, there's a lot to do. Everything always takes longer than you think it will. And with that, that's all I got. If you want to edit the doc over the course of the weeks, I'm going to remember to do it right now. You are now back in suggesting mode. Oh wait, nope, I'm the one that needs to do that. I need to go over to here and change it here. So you can now comment once more. So if you're interested in contributing to the world over the course of the next couple weeks, you are now able to do so. The link is in the Discord if you don't already have it. And yeah, that's it. Tune in tomorrow for DnDTime Talks, where myself and Trustaflump, aka Jeremy, is going to be hanging out. We're both going to be hanging out and talking about just a different D&D time or D&D related topic. Tomorrow's topic is going to be kind of how to build an adventure. It's a little bit different than the things that we've normally done, but we're going to be kind of creating a step-by-step guide, so to speak, of how one would create kind of a very simple and basic adventure, what you need, what goes into it. Should be a lot of fun. Additionally, as a reminder, if you're interested, we're adding the new kind of submit your own questions idea to DnDTime Talks, and we're doing that via Twitter. So if you're interested in having a question that me and Jeremy will answer. I'm sorry, I'm getting tired and stumbling over myself. It's a lot of talking and thinking in non-stop succession. If you're interested in submitting a question for that, we are going to be using Twitter in order to do so. So if you don't have a Twitter, now is the time to obtain one. Or if you do have a Twitter, then tweet at us with your question. Tweet at DnDTime with the hashtag DnDTime with your question, and maybe we will answer it on the show. We probably won't get to everything every week, but I'm very excited about kind of doing that. And yeah, that's about it. DnDTime tomorrow. DnDTime Talks tomorrow. That's going to be at 9 p.m. Eastern, 9:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 6:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, and then tune in on Friday, which you're all probably already aware. Pete and Jeremy's D&D Time. It's a blast. Hang out. And yeah, that's about it. And so, without further ado, I'm going to say good evening to you all. Thanks again all so much for hanging out. I love you. I'm Pete, and I'm Pete, and this is DnDTime Worlds. Good night!